Okay. I think we're live. All right. Hey guys, hey everybody. Welcome today to another amazing session of the Empowered Wellness series. I'm joined here today with my beautiful health and wellness coaches from all over the globe. There is Georgette Ko, who's dialed in from Arkansas. There is Rupsha, who's dialed in from Kolkata, India. Sylvia is somewhere in the audience. She's probably celebrating her birthday somewhere, so I'm gonna send her happy birthday. But it's incredible being here. I didn't make it to our last session. My health has been up and down for a little bit, but it's so wonderful to be here to host today's session. Today's session is one that is near and dear to my heart. It's also near and dear to a lot of people's heart when we talk about love. So before I let the cat out of the bag, I'd love to go through the round of introductions. I'd like for you to meet our esteemed panelists. And for that, I'm going to start with Georgette. Why don't you introduce yourself, Georgette, and talk about what you're deeply passionate about? Over to you.
Ooh. Hello, everybody. My name is Rajette Kwok, and I am a progress catalyst. What that means is I coach people who are ready to take action into being the best versions of themselves for the next phase of their life. I do this through health and wellness coaching in a very holistic manner. And my mission and my purpose is to get anybody I come in contact with to be in balance mind, body, and spirit. I'm also a speaker. I'm an author, and my book, Coming Back to My Body, is on Amazon. Please go check it out. That book is near and dear to my heart. And it is a window, it's a door that opens into giving yourself language to express your feelings. I'm a nurse. I have 15 plus years of nursing in my background, so there's a scientific background with everything that I do. And now I'm sitting here with these wonderful coaches and ready to talk about what's love got to do with it. Back to you, Anderson.
Thank you so much, Georgette. I appreciate you, and that was a beautiful introduction. So, thank you for that. And I love the mention of your book, Coming Back to My Body, and I'd love for you to talk more about that as we progress to this conversation. Rupsha, welcome, Rupsha. Welcome from Kolkata. Why don't you take it away? Introduce yourself. Over to you, Rupsha.
Thank you, Anderson. Once again, it's like really wonderful to be here. I'm Rupsha Bhattacharya and I'm joining in from Calcutta, India. So I'm a stress management coach and a yoga therapist. I've been doing this for the past around 5, 6 years. So what I basically do is I help people to connect their body, their mind with their breath, and through different processes. Through I work on 4 pillars, of which is exercise and breathing, which is rest and relaxation and sleep, nutrition and stress management. And working through these 4 pillars, I help people to achieve their goals and attain their potential, whatever they're looking for. I've been a yogini for the last 20 plus years. So, yes, a lot of my thought processes by the yogic philosophy. And let's see, I'm really passionate and obviously very excited about the topic. So, let's just get into it. Thank you, Anderson. Back to you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Rupsha, I can't wait to hear the perspective of a yogini when you talk about love and the collective oneness that we share. So that was a beautiful introduction, Rupsha. Thank you for that. And for everybody who's just joined us, welcome to the Empowered Wellness series. We just went through a round of introductions. My name is Anderson Dinga. I'm dialed in from Massachusetts in the United States. It's cold over here, so I've got my sweatshirt going. Georgette, it looks like you and I are twinning today, but I think you definitely wore it better. That's for sure. So you got the love shirt going. Um, I founded Live Unity as a company that can help people prioritize their well-being because there was a time in my life where prioritizing my well-being was a challenge. I felt like all the balls were dropping in different areas of my life, and so I started this company to help others find their way to self-mastery. If you're thinking about Will Baptiste, who's in the audience, shout out to Will, who's in the audience. He talks a lot about self-mastery and emotional mastery. That's the path that we have been on, and we've been running the Empowered Wellness series now for gosh, I think we've gone over a dozen sessions. Last month we were doing goal setting. We're helping goal setting for the year. Two incredible sessions. And this month we're doing love. Love has everything to do with it, like Will Baptiste says in the audience. So let's get into it. It's amazing to be here. It's amazing to be your host. We don't have Sylvia, like I mentioned here today, but Sylvia is somewhere in the audience celebrating her birthday. So we're just going to send her virtual flowers over here. But as we open up this topic, and I love the topic on love because we can flow and we can play with it, we can address it from so many different angles. There's just so much that goes into the topic of love. My question to you, my esteemed panelists, is what are some of the different ways by which we can slice and dice love? Like, do you put love in different categories? What are some of the ways by which we can get our viewers to think about this topic of love? We're going to start with Georgette and then we'll go to Ruksha. Georgette, take it away.
That's such a good question, Anderson. Whew, let me gather my thoughts because this is so rich. So, growing up, we are given the programming for love, and that's observing our parents, observing our family members, and our teachers guiding us how to be polite and be considerate of other people in school. That's the programming that we grew up, is so, which can be quite varied depending on the culture. So I grew up at least with everything being in a box. This is your friend, this is your mother, your father. And then when you get to dating age, this is your boyfriend, this is work. Everything has its own little box. And what has been modeled for us are the limits and depth of how we understand what love is. So, one of my very first friends, when I was 7 years old, we met on a school campus. My mom made lunch. And so I shared my lunch with her. And that's how we became friends. Our moms are like finger and nail. And the older we got, the closer we got. But just to show you that it is a concept that keeps expanding. It is not something that, even though we put in a box, it stays there. It just keeps expanding. The older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing that those boundaries keep shattering. And love to me now is just a way of life. At least it's becoming that. So some people still, even in their adulthood, do not understand that the boundaries that have been created for us or we've created for ourselves are limiting when it concerns love. They're limiting when it concerns expression. They're limiting when it concerns enjoyment, fulfillment, and pleasure in life because we're sitting in those boxes and we are so terrified to push it away, or we don't have the opportunity to push those boundaries of love to understand that on the other side of that, there is depth, there is expansion, and there is joy. There's also peace with that. Growing up also, once you get to your teenage years and you start expanding, like experiencing romantic love, you're coming out of a vacuum, right? You've never loved another person outside of your family, and this person is just amazing and you have a great time with them, and you're thinking this must be love because all I can do is think about this person and want to be around them all the time. I went to boarding school, so we would get letters back and forth, and I remember being so young, I would get in trouble because I got a whole bunch of letters from boys, and everybody thought, oh, she's just a terrible kid. But even at that age, you were so scared because they would call your name in front of this big giant assembly. And you're like, oh my gosh, I hope it's from my sister or my mom. No, it's from another boarding school for boys, and I'll get like 3 letters at a time. During the summer breaks, we would go out and have fun and party. And that box just started expanding. And then it hit a limit. it hit a limit that carried throughout my 20s, where this box, I'm supposed to fill in this box. The box expanded, but I was supposed to fill in the box. It's only in my mid 30s where I realized, starting from my early 30s at least, but in my mid 30s, I realized, wow, there is another depth of this. These boxes are limiting, and how do I break them without upsetting society, without upsetting my family, my friends, my job? How do I break those boundaries? It can be a daunting task, but I will leave that for now and hand the mic back over to Anderson so we can continue the conversation. I want to hear what Rusha has to say.
I I I love this varied perspective, and I love your analogy of boxes, putting people in boxes and the limiting beliefs. And I can't wait to hear what Rupsha's got to say. I can almost sense her brain is going. So why don't we hand it over to Rupsha, and then I'll share my thoughts at the end. Rupsha, take it away.
Yeah, I just want to go away because this is such a topic. Like, I'm already lost. And Georgia, that was wonderful. Like, honestly, that brought back so many thoughts and memories and everything. And the culture I come from, like as a child, as a kid, as a teenager, love was like very, very something very tabooed. You like hush, you talk to friends. It's always like from that angle, just one direction. Love always had one meaning, because parents and kids, we would not say, parents wouldn't say, like Indian kids mostly, I love you. And that was not there were different expressions probably, but love was that very tabooed word, which you cannot use. And then as Georgette said, okay, it happened, teenage happened, love was very commercialized, Valentine's Day around the corner, it's all about cards and those like chocolates, things like that. How many gifts are you getting? Oh my god, how many boys or girls? I, things like those things, those were all about, love. And then, but as you grow and you make more relationships, or your childhood relationships also, as some of them, you carry them along with you through time, through different phases of life, then you suddenly, and you also go through some bad love relationships or whatever, and then you're like, okay, love is not that one thing that we know about. It is expanded. My love could be towards so many people, so many things, other animals. It's like that deep bond, that connection, which helps me to, step over my boundaries time and again, without like much of logical reasoning when you think about it. So that's what the, love, it grows. And when I started studying yoga, and I was telling you guys pre this session, like, they spoke about love towards all being, everything that is existing, maybe a piece of stone or dust. I don't know how to do it, honestly, what that means, but they say love flows from within. Now, to simplify it, to understand it better, how I think about it is like, breath. Like it's just, it's our life force. Without it, we will be dead. But some of us are very aware of it. We know our breathing patterns and what it entails or what it signals. So it's the same with love. Love is also at a very core to us. It's there, but how we nurture it over time throughout our experiences or of love, or how we have received love, seen love, experienced it, understood it, and also evolving and becoming more self aware. That's how I think, love expands. And then how you understand, oh my God, I maybe not be able to love everyone, but at least I can, you know, ignore that person, or not let that calm and peace which love, those loving relationships have given me, it cannot come and disturb that peace. I think that's what love is to me. Thank you. Back to you, Anderson.
Oh man, Rupsha, I absolutely love that. I always value your yogini perspective. And before I give you both my feedback and my perspective on love, I just want to give a good shout out to Coyote, who just joined from Colorado. It's also her birthday month, so I think this is like a big birthday month, celebrating with the folks with the amethyst and the element of February is the purple and the amethyst. So, in case you're not sure, but shout out to Coyote. You're right, both of you. The way we grew up and how we understood love, it started from our family. It started from our parents, our siblings, the things that were closest to us, even our love of food. But we didn't actually think about our love of food until actually later on in life, where I started thinking about it. And that was thanks to you, actually, Georgette, when you were like, food is a love language, and you should think about it from that perspective. I was like, oh wow, that's why I eat a box of cereal every day. I'm just kidding. I don't eat a box of cereal every single day, but I love food. And this month, I'm rediscovering food and my love of food. Um, those who are just joining, I'm doing a plant-based month this month, so it's 30 days of plant-based eating, and it allows me to nourish my body, which is a form of self-love. Now, self-love is love. And I remember when I was growing up as a kid, we had this thing in spirituality, because I grew up in a Christian faith. We had this thing in spirituality: love your neighbor. And it was so funny because like a lot of people would give that love to their neighbor, but that statement finished with, and people didn't remember this part, as you love yourself, right? As you love yourself. You can only give what you can give to yourself. And that has stuck with me. The self love piece has stuck with me for the last few years, because there are a lot of people who think self love or self care is selfish. And I don't believe that. I think it's probably the highest and the purest form of love that you could find out there. So, this is how, when you talk about expansion of the concept of love, that concept has expanded from love of your neighbor, love of your family, love of your friends, and love of food, to now back to love of self. And it continues to grow and expand, because with love of self, then you can start giving out what is called unconditional love, which is a whole different area, which I'm learning about right now. Um, one of the different one of the books that I read over the course of my life, which I absolutely love, is Gary Chapman. Gary Chapman's got this book out there called The Five Love Languages. It's such a powerful book, and it's such a good reminder every time. I read it 10 years ago, and I just read it a few months ago, and it's still resonating with me, knowing what your love languages are out of the five love languages. So I'm coming back around to you. Why I say this, Georgette, is the question that I have for you is, what is the impact of having love in our lives, or what is the impact of not having love in those different categories that you're thinking about? Um, what are some of those like positive impacts of love, and what are some of those negative impacts? I know Rupsha earlier on was talking about disturbing the peace and the tranquility which we might have. Long-winded question, but what are some of those positive and negative impacts of love? Over to you, Shashat.
That's a very interesting question. I can start by saying what a different version, a younger, less emotionally intelligent, less aware self of me would say is, oh my gosh, love sucks. But that's not true. That is so not true. It is so not true. And I will start with the positives of love is the fact that even when we're young and we do not have a spiritual or higher understanding of what love is, we rely a lot on the feeling of being accepted. We rely on the feeling of being wanted in particular. Even children will express that to you. I'm a single mom, and I learned very early on, even because I like to learn from people. I don't have to go make a mistake to understand it. So while I was pregnant with my son, I had all these nurses who had boy children talk to me about how to communicate and this, that, and the other. Little did I know that was a positive thing that was going to impact my life so heavily. So the positive side of love is this. I first of all fell in love again with myself after having him, and there was no expression for it. There was no, that's the positive side, is there are no words to describe what it feels to hold a baby in your arms, whether you had them biologically or not. There are no words. Even regular people who don't have kids will hold a newborn and just be in awe. And I think that's the closest we can physically get to God, is holding a baby in our arms. A baby goat, a baby anything. That's the closest we can get to God. That's why those words are never there. That's why all the languages for God don't even have a description for it. We just assign a word because we need a word to describe that, right? That's the positive side of it. The positive side of having love in your life is resilience. Once you have a good support system where you feel loved, no matter what you're going through, no matter how dark, no matter how happy you get, no matter how successful you get, having love in your life is resilience, because you know, when I succeed, these people are going to be there for me. They will support me with whatever my love language is, because we kind of figure each other out without having the words for it. They'll support you, and when you're down and you're low, they will hold you. They will caress you. They will put you on in this place where they can nurture your spirit a little bit. That's why in the Bible it says you are in the bosom of God. It's like right there, close to somebody's heart, where they can feel you, understand you, and take care of you. Another beautiful thing about love is peace. Once you are loved properly, there is peace in your life. There is peace. And the negative side of this, which I feel like I have to intertwine here, is that our brains do this normal, natural thing that whatever is familiar to us seems peaceful, even when it's not, from the outside looking in. Even on the other side of love, there is peace. This is the reason why some people will stay in abusive relationships in any form. Is because it's a familiar they know how to cope with. But unless you come into awareness and consciousness, you're not going to realize that your nervous system is so dysregulated. It's insane. Everybody else can see you, experience you, and go, oh my gosh, I wouldn't do this if I were her. But if you're in a regular environment that seems normal to you, you feel like that's love until somebody points it out, and until you decide to accept that this is not healthy. There's peace with that because you know how to handle it. That's the other side, that's the other coin of it. Another beautiful thing about having love in your life is that you are not constantly searching for it in one person, which romantic love has been commercialized. Like Rusha said, Valentine's Day is next week. And I'm sure all the stores around the world are just filled with teddy bears and chocolate and cards and all these beautiful love messages, which is great because we are one human race, and we need to remember that. Let's put a day on it. And I love what has happened over the years. Now there's Valentine's Day, which is a lot of women who are like, yeah, I don't have a man to celebrate with, and they go do something fun. It's expanding now. Kids are doing it in school. They make little hearts for their classmates or whatever crafts. It's expanding. It's no longer this romantic love thing. And not finding only one person to just pour your love into is very healthy as well. You need it from all other sources and all 8 dimensions of your life, where you're receiving and then you're pouring out to everybody as well, because pouring it into one person only just causes that person stress over time. In the beginning it seems fun, and we call it butterflies or whatever the situation may be, but it's pure anxiety. Science has proven that already. So that's how positively love affects us. It keeps us in a state of peace, regardless of whether it's negative or whether it's positive. We are in a state of acceptance. We're in a state of peace. We feel wanted, loved, and feel belonged. So the other negative side, which I don't even like to say there's a negative side, the opposite of love is not hate. It's kind of indifference. It's not hate. It's indifference. Hate comes from a different source. It's just indifference. And being indifferent is being passive. Being passive means you're not actively participating in your own life. You're not actively participating in your own mental, emotional, and spiritual health. So then you get stagnant, and then that's when the anger builds up, and that's when the hate that starts to show. When you're negatively impacted as well, or your environment is just terrible, that's the negative side of it. Because the person acting out in hate says, it's because I love this thing so much, I need to destroy another thing. So, two different sources. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. At least to me, that's what it is. I'll pass the mic back to Anderson. This is such a good topic.
I love, Georgette, you packed so much into that when you talked about holding a baby or holding any baby, and that spiritual connection that we all have as the human race, or the sentient beings, but we lose that over time. That deep spiritual connection, that connection to God, like you talked about. And we can slice and dice the word God in different cultures, religions, whether you think about it as in nature or you think about it as the source. But that connection to the source is so powerful. And then you talked about resilience, which to me is a source of health, a sense of being, a sense of belonging. That's so powerful. You shared so many gems, Shashat. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but you talked about the absence of the opposite of love being indifference. See, I was nodding my head over here because I never actually heard it. I thought it was hate. You don't love me, you hate me. But it's interesting how you broke it down. And I'm happy to say that I learned something today from this conversation, because you're right. It is not hate. Hate is just an expression that comes from, the lack thereof of love, which is that indifference. So thank you so much for sharing these gems. I'm going to come back to you on this because, like, I feel like you talked about the eight dimensions. I think the eight dimensions of wellness, and we can probably talk about love as it pertains to each one of those dimensions. But before we get to that, I'd love to hear from Ruksha. Ruksha, when you think about the impact of love in your life, positive and negative impact, um, what comes up for you? What are some of those areas that love actually positively impacts our life, and what are some of those areas that the absence of it, or the presence of it, might negatively impact our life? Over to you, Ruksha.
Yeah, so wonderful question again, once again. So, see, when we talk about the impact of love, I think here I would like to say what we're talking about, the quality of love. It's very important to know the quality of love and the dynamics of the relationship. Okay, that's very important. Now, when we say love, negative, positive, I think either there's love or there's lack of love. So there's, I don't think there's toxic love. It's just toxic. It's just toxic behavior. There's nothing called toxic love. How can you put like two things, opposite things together and call it something? No. It's toxic human behavior. And for different reasons, society, cinema, novels, our history, whatever, that toxic, which we call the negative, has been, love has been tagged with it, which I don't go about it. I just call it toxic relationship, toxic behavior. On the other hand, love is a quality, long lasting quality love, which builds resilience and all, obviously leads to less stress levels. Number one, overall, yes. But also, I think, the positive impacts of love, I'll come to the negatives later, but the positive impact, I think it helps us to learn non-violence, not only in the terms of physical harm, non-violence in terms on your in your thoughts, and of course actions, not only towards others, other humans, other living beings or other things, but also towards your own self, which leads to forgiveness. We understand the power of forgiveness because when we are in love, in different and different categories of love, we easily forgive. So now if we come to self love, we can do it with others. So it, love should also teach us that, we should also learn to forgive ourselves, and that's how love enriches us and helps in our personal growth. Also, I think a wonderful thing about love, any love relationship, and we go through, see, love has all its ups and downs. It's not only butterflies and roses and all that things. It has its ups and downs. But I think love, if we are, when we're talking about personal growth and self-awareness and things like that, how it positively impacts us, I think it also many times helps us to forces us rather to confront us, forces us to confront our certain characteristics and things and behavior which we would otherwise never do, and we completely ignore it. So it shows us that mirror which we rather ignore and not face. So it does that. And through that, I think these are the positive impacts of love it has from the deeper level, because it encompasses so many things: vulnerability, communication, though also, negative things like love entails jealousy, yes, but it also sometimes, helps us to communicate better, like, okay, I've been jealous, and also I can also turn it to something positive. If I know, and love will make you jealous, like my mother being someone, or my husband doing, or my best friend being more friends with someone, it'll jealousy will come, or some. But how to turn those negative emotions to positive? I think love teaches us all this. It does. And the negative, I would say, yes, I wouldn't say love is negative, but the way the society treats love in a negative way is like negative, like, oh, obsessive love or something, like just not respecting. So you don't know the basics of love, and a person doesn't know the basic of foundation of love, respect, and trust and honesty, then there will be a lot of toxic traits. And I wouldn't call it love, I would call it toxic relationships. It could be between siblings, parents, and children, love relationship. There are toxic traits, could be anywhere. So that's how I think. So if we just unlabel love with toxicity, then those toxic traits will be easier to handle. Because then we're putting a romantic angle to toxic behavior. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So that's my take on this.
Absolutely. I know what you mean. I mean, I don't know what you mean, but the way you put it like that, I get it. Like it makes perfect sense to me. There's no such thing as toxic love. There's just toxic situations, toxic relationships, toxic masculinity. We talk about some of that too. And I think that it's really important to kind of separate those things, you know. So, Ruksha, thank you so much for that. You, you touched on so much. And I want to go back to some of what you were talking about there, where you talk about like the ability to flip the negatives into positives, and the existence of you were talking about the existence of jealousy. You know, jealousy exists when there is love, and it's just important for us to have that understanding that where there is love, there might be grief, you know. This so coming to your point, grief is probably the highest form of love that came to learn. I thought it was a bad thing for the longest time. So for the longest time I held myself back from expression of grief, expression of love, because how dare that person walk out of my life? It's not their choice, right? It was never their choice. But inadvertently we connect and we disconnect, at least this physical being, but in a spiritual sense, we stay connected. And I had to come to this understanding of love, to find appreciation of grief, to transcend past the pain into what is joy, what is love, what is happiness, what is peace, what is gratitude. That actually, I did have that person in my life. So I love that angle, Rupsha, that love has this ability to flip things in your brain. For me, it's helped me find gratitude in the smallest things. You know, gratitude for the air that I've got. You know, sometimes we forget to just be like, you know, I'm having a rough day, but you have fresh air to breathe. You know, you had a bed that you woke up in the morning. You know, you have people who called you, who texted you to check in on you. That's love. And so much of the time we forget about that because we're thinking about the higher things. Oh, I didn't get that job. Oh, I didn't get that raise. Oh, my manager said something to me. But you have a manager, you have a job, you know? So it's so fascinating how love has this amazing way of flipping those things in your brain. We talked about health and wellness, and I know with Live Unity, a lot of our conversations around wellness and the presence of love and how it actually helps us with our wellness. Rupsha, I'm really impressed by your background in stress management. Earlier in the pre-session, we were talking about stress management and anxiety and depression. I'm going to come back to you on this one, Rupsha. In what areas do you think love can actually help with things like stress management or anxiety or depression? Back to you, Rupsha.
Yeah, as I said, love. So it is there. So when we meet our loved ones or we do things that we love or our pets, the basic things, I think, obviously, Georgia will be able to talk about it more, you as well. Our happy hormones flows. Yes. So that's why, whenever honestly anyone with stress or anxiety or depression coming or loneliness or mm, uh, difficulties in coping, so the first thing what we suggest is like find out something that you like to do or dig out your good memories, help those happy hormones to flow, understand that, and once you start feeling better, that's how then you start do uh, do other things. So I think that is, yeah, so that exactly. So why people say like if you have pets for anxiety, have pets. If you love pets, have pets, because they instantly, like kids, the children, as Georgette mentioned, children, holding them, seeing them, listening to them, it's scientific, like there your happy hormones flows. Hugging, cuddling, kissing, or holding hands, seeing your best friend, seeing your partner, your parents, or any loved one, or doing something you like food. Yes. So so that's how your stress levels go down naturally. And then obviously you have to put some extra effort. So then obviously I say body movement, move your body, exercise, it helps. Like do something that you love to do, any kind of physical activity that you love to do. You like to walk around the nature, observe nature, because if that makes you happy, if you love it, your happy hormones will flow. And breathing, focus on your breathing, understand. So all these helps to regulate your hormones from a very basic level, what's happening inside our body. So I think find out things that makes you happy. Obviously, you have to eat good food, have colorful food, colors, different colors. It makes you happy. Taste, touch, do things that makes you happy, which will help you to let your hormones flow, good hormones flow, make you feel better. That's how you cope with your challenges when you're like really stressed and anxious. And then so I do it myself. I've asked a lot of people to do it, my clients, that make a list of at least 10 things that makes you happy. Keep that list. Might be very silly. It might be looking at a flower, having coffee, or just napping. It depends on you. But make a list of 10 things, write them down that makes you happy. And you're when the days you're feeling low and you're like completely frustrated and you're not feeling loved, you're just not seeing love anywhere, go back to that list, do something, see if it makes you happy, makes you feel better or not. Self love, that also, and from there I'll again come to that self love thing. If you really ask me, something which is very important is practicing that non violent attitude towards your own self, not beating yourself up completely, like on past mistakes and everything. Just let it be. I think that's the truest form of self love you can show. Yeah. And then, as we have not just, I'll just end here what, as we were speaking, like as we have grown up, we always talk about community and tribe now in the last few years. But the other day I was talking to this friend and she was like, Ruksha, can you imagine how many hurdles and challenges we have overcome because we have had friends, like we have had each other, and like we have had communities always. Maybe that community haven't it hasn't lasted, a different community has come up, but then we have always had communities through love, which has helped us to, you know go across through all those hurdles and heartbreaks and losses and griefs and everything, a lot of things. So yes, more power to love. Back to you.
I love it. Thank you for that, Rupsha. I really appreciate. There's so many gems in there, and by the way, the comments that we are getting from the audience are incredible. Velvet Petals is saying, "What a great topic to start my day rolling." Thank you, Velvet Petals, for that. Oh, she said, okay, that was still Velvet Petals. That was Alexandra saying hello from Colorado. My aunt, Miss Mary Ann Sajay, saying quite true. She's like, this is great listening, and she would love to know where she can help with stress management. Look at that, that's beautiful. Alexandria Coyote's back. She's saying, I love to eat natural colors of the rainbow. Yeah, a lot of people talk about eating the rainbow. It makes my heart and my gut, my brain smile inside. I love that. That's awesome. It makes me feel light as a feather. That's incredible. Look at that. And then Will is in the audience. Will has been with us since the beginning. Will says, "I love love. I love love too." That's incredible. Um, Thank you so much for these comments. It's absolutely incredible to see them. Keep these comments coming in. It's amazing. We're gonna start winding down the conversation. And I'm going to come back to you, Georgette, because I feel like this conversation on love, we could probably have 3 hours of just talking about love. But since this is the love month, and since we're going to be coming back next time in 2 weeks to talk more about how you can integrate love into your life, I just thought it would be nice to kind of close off the conversation with sharing some, maybe one or two or three practical tips that people can take away from this and start to integrate love into their life as they're planning on coming to the future session, because we don't want to let the cat too
Yes.
early out of the bag. So, what are some practical tips that people can take away from this conversation? One, two, or three things that they can do to start incorporating love into their lives.
Oh, yes. Pay attention to your emotions. And I'm not talking about just the good ones only. And just like you mentioned, Anderson, grief is a huge, huge one, which is quite misunderstood. And I have a whole chapter in my book about grief. And you have this, for every chapter, there's a place where you can, jot your own thoughts, and there are prompts in there with the book. And grief is this thing that is, like you said, Anderson, it's not well understood by the average person. Grief therapists get it. People who run those types of organizations understand it to a certain degree. But because we do have love, which is grief is an expression of love, it's an expression of a person who is no longer active in your life, whether they're physically dead or they walked out of your life, or you've broken up with them, you've left a job, you've given away a pet or had to put a pet down, or death, a big giant breakup, a divorce. Grief has to be addressed because it is a cyclical thing and it will always come back into our lives. So, no, tip number one is you have to understand that you will feel grief when you are fully present and loving towards everybody and everything. You will be in full grief, and it comes with at us in different ways. The way I express mine is different from the way you express yours, but when you recognize what grief is by reading books and listening to podcasts and going on YouTube. YouTube is fabulous. You can have a whole university on YouTube and understand what grief is, recognize that, get my book, and have a place to be able to journal in there with the prompts as well. And that way you can understand that grief can also interact and have a negative effect on all your relationships. A lot of times when people think grief, they're thinking about somebody who has died. When they think grief, they're thinking about a divorce or a breakup. But grief comes in many ways. Grief comes in losing a job that you absolutely enjoyed or not being able to see some coworkers you enjoyed with. Grief comes with moving into a different place, whether it's down the street or out of a state or out of a country. So being able to recognize those feelings of grief, and it comes in such a wide variety, and being able to learn how to move through those, you will not spill negativity on your loved ones. The second thing about love that we need to pay attention to is how much we obsess over it when it concerns romantic love, and take a step back and go, this is programming from a time past, and this is also happy hormones. Our bodies just do its own thing. Our bodies love to feel love. And the reason why romantic relationships are so high on that spectrum is because it's like the closest thing to also feeling God, the closest thing to being in an out of body experience, to be able to look at another person and go, wow, wow, this person is incredible. And I don't even know who I am in this moment. Think about those obsessive thoughts and pull back a little bit and see where the only way to enjoy that high, that feeling of love, is to pull back when you start getting into obsession, when you start putting people on a pedestal, whether it's a parent, a sibling, or whoever, is to pull back a little bit. If you want to enjoy loving this person, share that high with them instead of giving the high to yourself and removing them as this foreign entity in your life. This is where the whole people pleasing thing comes with parents as well, where, oh my gosh, my dad did this. He's this incredible person, or my mom is this wonderful human being. I can't go wrong, and this, that, and the other. It's also an expression of love. Pull back, sit back, and go, I love this person. And yes, I would scorch the earth for them, whether it's your child or who your spouse. But pull back and go, I want to sit in this feeling of love in a healthy way. So I cannot put them on a pedestal. Because when they fall off that pedestal, what do? We blame them. Oh, you disappointed me. Oh, you said this, you did that. But when you pull back, you are able to see them, flaws and all, and decide how to love them, especially if you know what their love language is, or you know what they need in that moment. That obsessive view and that pedestal view of any kind of love is very detrimental to our mental health. The third thing about love is self-love. And just like Anderson also pointed out in the beginning about the verse in pretty much every holy scripture, is to love your neighbor as yourself. That we forget the self part. And we're coming into a place in the world today where we're trying to really focus on self care and self love from a mental health angle. And because we have been conditioned so much to always give everybody else and not give ourselves, like Rusha was talking about, have that kindness, that non-violence towards your own self, and say, you know what? I wouldn't tell my friend this. Why am I saying this to myself? I wouldn't do this to my mom. I wouldn't do this to my child. I wouldn't do this to this mentor that I really care about. Why would I treat myself the same way? And learn to sit in that feeling. I understand that there's been personal growth and spiritual growth with me and all of us on this stage, where we move through our feelings with a little bit more mastery. But to begin with, learn to sit in those feelings when you feel like you're being defiant against a status quo, against the box. You're pushing against the boundaries of those boxes. Learn to sit in that feeling and go, but I love myself. Not in a selfish way because you're causing harm, but in a way that preserves you so that you can keep that peace, that joy, that patience, that love, and everything, and spread it appropriately. Not vomit it, not obsess, and put people on a pedestal. It removes your own higher self. It removes the very essence of you when you do that. So learn to sit in your uncomfortable feelings. And when you're pushing a societal boundary, fear not. In every historical holy text, fear not is the number one thing. But because you are being fearless, you will experience grief because you have to let some identities go. You have to let some people go. You have to let some ideas go and cultivate a sense of having a love life, not just one person to have a love life with. That person is the cherry on top. Those are the three things I wanted to share.
I love that. I could probably do an entire master class on just those three things, but you landed there really squarely on self-love, and it's really as such a powerful reminder. And so, with that, I'm going to hand it off to Rupsha. Rupsha, key takeaways or practical tips that you would love to share with our audience. They've been listening to us since the beginning. One, two, or three things that you would love to share with them, Rupsha.
Ah, difficult. All right, I'll try. Key, no, key takeaways. What I think about love is, see, love actually triggers and it encompasses a and wide spectrum of feelings and thoughts and emotions and their corresponding actions and behaviors. All right. So it is important, like as Georgette and we've been talking about, like we have to understand that it's not, you cannot, love is not nothing, something which is tangible or measurable, right? So you have to have a broader scope, you have to give love a broader scope, you have to not limit yourself to certain concept of love. This is what, if there is love, then these are the things, 1 2 3 4 5, these things has to happen, otherwise it's not love, it's something else. You have to break those, shatter those limiting beliefs and those that we've been fed and we have been taught and we've been seeing. So we have to understand what is my love language, what I am looking at, what I'm looking at receiving, what I can give, and build your connections accordingly. I mean, I might want, need, okay, see, love relationships, whatever we say, at some level is transactional, right? There is some kind of transactions going on at some level. That's what I feel like. And it's also obvious, it's also convenient, and it's our support system. It's something we completely rely on, and it is transactional. So I have to understand what I am looking out, and I'm talking about a very like everyday relationships, those small things, big things, actions, what I'm looking for from a person, and what are my love languages to be expressive and to kind of be building the right kind of connections and the right kind of love relationships is very, the self awareness is very important, and acknowledging all those feelings and emotions that comes with love, and could be negative and positives, and then eventually learn how to deal with them. Joy, ecstasy, and all that, obviously we can deal with, but obviously the sadness, the grief, the loss, the heartache, the anger, the frustration, your expectations not being met, all that could be very small things, but how to deal with them, we can only when we become very self-aware and what we really need and looking out of those relationships, we can also start dealing with these, the negative impacts it has. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rupsha. I appreciate that. I don't know about you all in the audience listening to this, but I feel fed. I feel very nourished this morning with this love wisdom, like like Coyote is saying in the audience. Thank you both so much for an enlightening conversation. This has been a lot of fun. I've learned so much from you both, and I've learned so much from the folks who are putting comments in the audience. So I can't wait for us to come back and actually get into some of those practical tips on how to integrate love into our lives. In today's conversation, we've touched on so many different so many different areas of those dimensions of our lives. We've talked about romantic love. We've talked about feeding yourself, nourishing yourself with something that's nutritious, like eat the rainbow, right? We've talked about exercise as a form of love, which is incredible. Thanks for that, Rupsha, our fellow yogini here. I love that. We've talked about connecting with others, like social wellness, which is an incredible form of love. Um, I'm sure there are people who are at work right now and they're thinking, how do I bring love into my work? So, next time when we get together, we're going to talk about how we can integrate love into these different aspects of our lives. Specifically, because we can't boil the ocean, specifically, I would love to limit to limit it to maybe three areas of our lives. So when you come back in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about the spiritual aspect of love, the work and career aspect of love, and also because we can't get away from this part, our relationships, our interpersonal relationships. I think that's really important. Um, but I'm really, really grateful for you all for nourishing me, for nourishing us with this enlightening conversation. Love is an incredible vibration, one of the highest vibrations, to be honest with you. If we have fear and paranoia that is down here, then we have love and gratitude that are up here. It's a vibration which, if you felt it, it's it's hard to describe it, like you said, Rupsha. It's really hard to put words to it because it's not to another person, it's not to another object, it's not to just a different place. It's the energy that we all share with each other. So it's an amazing vibration, and it's a vibration which once you feel it, it just it just feels incredible. It just feels absolutely incredible. I love that it is the love month, and I love that it is birthday month for a lot of people. And I want to send you out into the world today with lots of love, lots of light, lots of laughter, fun, humor, you name it. Bring that into your life. That's the power of love. It allows us to flow into these different energies and really appreciate the bounty of life that we've been given. So I won't be seeing you between now and Valentine's Day, but if you do celebrate Valentine's or Galentine's Day, have a wonderful Valentine's Day. It is our good friend Sylvia's birthday, so happy birthday to you, Sylvia.
Happy birthday, Sylvia!
Happy birthday, Sylvia.
Yes, yes, she's somewhere in Dubai, probably enjoying her birthday. And on the 22nd, which is when we're going to be back here, like I said in the beginning, we'll be talking about the integration of love into your life. So stay tuned for more. And thank you to my esteemed panelists for just an amazing, engaging conversation once again. Georgette, Ruksha, it's been wonderful. And I'm looking forward to another session with you both. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you next time. Take care, y'all.